You probably have that vision of that dream team, those all-star A players crushing through the work together, sprinting forward together. And if you look at the team that you have today and you don't see that, if your team right now is struggling with performance, with speed, with accountability, with slow execution, then the good news that I have for you is that it is probably not a motivation problem. It's probably not even a people problem. Like you just don't have the right people on the bus. It's not who you have, it's how they show up, how your team comes together and works together to move things forward. So in this video, I want to break down how high performance teams operate. What are the common, not obvious, common characteristics that unite the hundreds of amazing teams that I've had the opportunity to work with and that separate them from the pack compared to the many others that are just average. So as we go through this, I want you to think through and see exactly where your team might be stuck and what you can do starting today to begin shifting towards clearer communication, faster and better performance, and stronger accountability. How do we make this happen? Let's dive into it. So when it comes to building a top performing team, there's all the obvious stuff, right? Hire great talent, create radical ownership, right? All the basics. I want to focus on the less obvious drivers, starting with data. That's right. The top performing teams, the best of the best that I know, all have this one thing in common, which is that they use data as the starting point for everything. They use data as the starting point for identifying problems, where problems exist, and how to solve those problems. They use the data for making key decisions around how and where to move the business forward. Data is the starting point for all execution, all action, all decision making. So what does that mean? What does it look like? And then why is this so powerful? What it looks like is a leadership team that comes together and they start their meeting by reviewing the critical KPIs, the key performance indicators across the business. Based off of that data and where the numbers currently are, that forms their conversation. What is the data telling us in terms of where problems exist in the business, what needs to be worked on yet, what's off track, what's not working, how do we move the business forward, right? It all starts with the data. If a team member needs to bring something in for discussion, right? A problem that they need help solving or a decision that needs to be made, they come into that conversation with the data. Hey, our sales conversion rate is 5% below KPI. Here's the 10 leading indicators that I've already looked at. I've already pulled the data. Here's all of the relevant information that I'm seeing about where this problem may be coming from, what it is we've already tried, and what we need to do next. Here's what I think we should do, and here's why, according to the data, right? And that is just a behavioral standard set across the entire team. The founders who lead these teams set expectations that, hey, do not bring me a problem without the data. As a team, we do not guesswork. We do not intuit our way to the right decision. As a team, we set the standard that we use data as the starting point for every major decision. So why does data make such a powerful difference to team performance? The first thing is speed. When you have a team where everyone is looking at the data consistently, we're simply able to catch problems way faster. We catch problems faster, therefore we solve problems faster. We're able to see little changes in key leading indicators that tell us where problems are beginning to appear within the business and then proactively work to resolve those issues. High performance teams are proactive because they're using the data to tell them where to move next, as opposed to most teams that are perpetually reactive. Because they're not looking at the data, problems will brew and grow and fester and all of a sudden become this huge explosion. And now we see it. Now we see the problem. Now that it's exploded, and now we have to react to it to try and fix it. So low performance teams wait for problems to escalate and then react to them. High performance teams use the data to instead drive proactive problem solving and work. The second reason that data creates high performance teams is that the decisions that come from data are simply better, right? Alex Hormozi once told me, Jhana, I don't make better decisions than anybody else. I just have better data. What he was saying is that when we have the right data, the data is going to tell us where the problems are, and most often, what we need to do to solve the problem. The data is going to tell us what the best decision is. And so in lower performance teams, what they're reliant on is intuition. And most often what they're reliant on is the founder's intuition, right? All problems have to get escalated up to the founder and be like, all right, boss, what do you think? How do we solve this? And then the founder has to, kind of gut check, well, wind's blowing this direction, so I guess we're going to do this, right? And even the most brilliant founders like Alex Hormozi, recognize that while they can rely on their intuition, they cannot scale it. You cannot scale intuition. You cannot push decision-making downwards and entrust and empower your team to make the right decision based off of intuition. Instead, it has to be based off of the data. Data-based teams outperform your average team. And that's why the number one leadership and team building tool that we arm our clients with is called the Leadership Scorecard. It is a way of bringing data in to measure the performance of your team. The Leadership Scorecard is absolutely key if you're serious about creating a data-based culture within your team. So you can go ahead and actually grab a copy of the Leadership Scorecard. It is such an effective tool. We have now made it free and we give it away. You can grab it below. The link is in the description. Grab that Leadership Scorecard and follow the tutorial video that's in that tool so you can start to bring data into the conversation with your leadership team starting tomorrow. Okay, so we've determined that data allows teams to make better decisions, move faster, learn faster, grow faster. What else contributes to high performance teams? The second one you maybe have never heard of, but in his book, The Culture Code, Daniel Coyle did this huge analysis of all the world's top performing teams, and he found this to be the number one most fundamental, most critical common characteristic of all top performance. And that's something called psychological safety. Does your team feel safe in the working environment that they are in? Do they feel safe to disagree? Do they feel safe to try something and maybe fail? Do they feel safe that if they make a mistake or if they say the wrong thing, they won't be punished, they won't be judged, their job won't be on the line? Our job as leaders is to create an environment of psychological safety, because when we do, what we unlock is a team that will think bigger and take bigger risks because they are not as afraid of failure. They will also, and this is such an important piece, not hold back. In environments that lack psychological safety, right? So these could be environments where the leader is really emotionally reactive. And if I say the wrong thing, they're gonna get pissed and they're gonna come down on me. Or environments where I will be judged for disagreeing with the boss or saying something controversial. In environments without psychological safety, people shut up. They just don't say anything because it is safer not to. And so what we lose as the leader of that team is we lose all of the insight and all of the opinion and all of the expertise that we would have gotten. So when we put psychological safety in place, what we are inviting is radical honesty. And this is the third and final piece of high performance teams that I want to cover today, which is that the top performing teams that I know can talk about anything. They are not afraid, right? They have the psychological safety to feel confident that they can disagree with anyone, including you, right? That anyone across the team, if they have a counterpoint or a counter thought, can disagree with the most important person in the room. That is huge, because the dialogue and the decision making that comes from that environment is so much better because it's pulling in more data that people feel safe to share. But radical honesty has a second component to this. And this I think is actually the more interesting one, which is that the top performance teams that I know are also able to be radically honest when it comes to feedback for and with each other. Radical honesty means that I can go to you and say that the way that you asked me that question on the meeting yesterday really pissed me off, and I'd actually rather you ask the question this way so that you and I can work better together moving forward. Now, human beings will annoy each other. That is inevitable. So it's not that we have some perfectly harmonious team that gets along perfectly and everybody's kumbaya all the time. It's that in the natural friction and the natural disagreement and the natural tension that exists between human beings trying to collaborate, the question is, can we communicate through it? Can I ask you to show up and collaborate with me differently? Can I give you feedback on how your showing up is inhibiting my ability to get my work done? Is everything fair game to be discussed? Because in that environment, when everyone can say what needs to be said, hear what needs to be heard, take the constructive feedback, and keep moving, that team will improve in their performance as a team over time. Over time, they will actually learn to collaborate better, to communicate better, to make decisions better. They will grow, they will improve, they will accelerate. So when I really look at and study the hundreds of high performance teams that I've seen, this is what it comes down to. It comes down to things like making database decisions. It comes down to things like having radical honesty set in a foundation of psychological safety. And these are the things that we as leaders often don't think about, but actually create the biggest difference when it comes to building that true dream team that we're going for. Now, there is one more piece to this, and it's so important that I literally gave it its own video. So if you want the number one high performing team secret that you don't know, but your competitors probably do, go ahead, check that out in the next video, and I will see you over there.